I'm sort of careful about what I say in relation to my own eccentricities, because the truth is, I'm a conventionally mentally healthy person. I don't have any problems. I don't have any learning disabilities. I don't have any emotional problems. I don't have any psychological problems. But I very carefully examine, I really very thoroughly reflect on the things that set me apart from, shall we say, my own brothers and sisters, because I come from a large family. And it is interesting, if you have many brothers and sisters, people who are genetically similar to you, then the psychological differences, the intellectual differences may stand out, to a greater extent. It may be easier for you to see, hey, this is neither nurture nor nature, but just a difference between people when you've got brothers and sisters to compare yourself to. One I think you've all heard me talk about quite a bit is the fact that I don't feel jealousy. Believe me, my brothers and sisters feel jealousy. Like, I'm aware this is a very, very unusual element of my character, whether that's psychological, intellectual, or what. But I've said many, many times, that's not ethical. That's not like a decision I made. I didn't choose to not feel jealousy. And I've also said, I think you guys have heard me talk about the role of sympathy in life. I talk about sympathy being an analytical tool. Jealousy also, draws people into understanding one another and thinking about their relations with one another in a pretty dynamic way. Like, I can see how, in terms of evolutionary time, human beings have benefited from jealousy. Like, over millions of years, at least the way it draws one person's attention to the other, makes one person examine and try to understand another and understand a group dynamic and hierarchy. And there are a lot of behaviors over the scale of hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years that come out of jealousy, which you can see as being positive in relation to survival of the species. But I don't feel jealousy. So look, I really examine very thoroughly the things that psychologically make me different from other people. And one that was mentioned a long time ago, and some people were freaked out about, is the fact that in my adult life, I do not have dreams. I do not dream in the conventional sense of the term. And I stopped having normal dreams many, many years ago. So, why is that? Well, at a very early age, I became in the minority of people who have what's called lucid dreaming. So when I was young, not all of the time, but very often, if I had a dream, I would become aware that it was a dream. And then from my position within the dream, as a lucid dreamer, as someone who is aware that they're dreaming, I could manipulate the reality of the dream. I could change it to be anything. So, once you know it's a dream, if you are a lucid dreamer, you can just choose to be at the ocean, and suddenly you're at the ocean. You can choose to do anything, see anything, talk to anybody. You have a comic book-like superpower to recreate the false reality around you. But of course, it's meaningless because you know it's false. Now, when I first was coming into this behavior, I can remember testing how detailed was the reality of the world of dreams. Something that really surprised me, for example, I can remember in a dream, this is when I was figuring out how lucid dreaming worked, I took a book off of the bookshelf and as rapidly as possible was reading the pages in the book while flipping through them in the dream. And your mind is generating the text in the book. And so for me, at least, this may not be true if you also can control your dreams, if you also have lucid dreaming. If I did it slowly, if I just read at a normal pace, then my imagination could generate as much text as I wanted in the book and on any topic. I mean, your imagination is racing ahead of you all the time to fill in the blanks in reality as you perceive it when you're awake, and your mind is doing that when you're dreaming also. But if I went through very, very quickly the book, I could not, I would be able to catch myself, so to speak. I'd be able to perceive my mind generating it. I'd be able to perceive that, the false reality, the illusion of the dream was racing to fill up the pages as fast as I was glancing through them. Yeah. Now, of course, a lot of creative artists are fascinated by this once you get into lucid dreaming. If you're something like a songwriter, many, many people who compose music pop music or something. They try to use dreams in this way to generate song lyrics or poetry or new ideas. And you can, but, the quality of your creative output is much better when you're awake. I could do that also, but if I was rigorously, writing down new ideas that came out of my dreams, whether ideas for, creative arts, stories or songs, or, ideas of other kinds, like maybe 1% of them are good ideas. Like maybe 5% are like useful ideas, not even good. Maybe 5% of it is useful. But no, if you sit down when you're awake and write a song, that's going to be a song that, reflects rational things and is interesting to your audience and has some kind of quality. And if you rely on your dreams, then, you could do hundreds and hundreds, and out of the hundreds you create, a few probably would be good. But it's going to be a sifting process like that. Anyway, so I'm somebody who both is acutely aware of dreams and, in a sense, disregards them. Oh, right, so another example of that with lucid dreaming. Back when it was kind of new to me, I remember I was interested in testing how detailed this reality was. And so I went around and was looking at a lot of things that you're not intentionally visualizing in the dream. So I looked down at the dirt on the ground and, moved the dirt with my foot and went around and looked at, this kind of completely boring detail of the dream to see how much of this was being filled in my mind's eye. And one of the details that really surprised me was that I went up to a window. I imagined myself at a real life location in the dream. A window of reinforced glass. So it's glass that has chicken wire in it. And I walked up to the window and looked, and I could see the reflection of my own face, in the glass. And, I was really surprised that, wow, just the extent to which those types of details are filled in the illusion of the dream. And then when I was surprised, I could also see the reflection of my own face. I could see how surprised I was. But of course, there are other limits. I mean, my ability to speak German is limited. I do still understand some German. So if I try to push myself in the dream to speak German or to have a conversation with somebody else in German, my mind can't really do that, right? So, because I only know so much German. So, which is also, again, when you're first having this kind of dream, it's it's interesting to push those limits. And obviously, if you're having a conversation with someone else, you can in lucid dream you can conjure up any historical character, but what they're actually going to say to you is just you talking to yourself. And obviously, you figure that out pretty quickly with lucid dreaming. And if it's an historical person you've done a lot of research on, they're going to say the things that reflect your opinion of them or the research you've done on them. But that's for me, that's of absolutely no interest. And I have had some interesting philosophical conversations in my dreams, but it's normally because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, doing a lot of work on when I was awake. And even though those dreams, some of them were interesting, where I had a kind of debate about philosophy or politics while I was dreaming, it's never going to be as good or useful or productive as the kind of debate you can have when you're awake. So I just say there are obvious limits to lucid dreaming. But a lot of people, not a lot of people, some people, creative artists, do get fascinated with lucid dreaming because they hope it can be a kind of factory for them to generate new ideas and new perspective on the world. And maybe it can be. Maybe it can be for some, but very, very rarely is the perspective generated by lucid dreaming useful. However, I've got to tell you, the final outcome of those years of lucid dreaming was an end to dreaming itself. In my adult life, as I got older, I can say I just stopped dreaming entirely. And I can remember the timeline of that. And until very recently, if I had a dream at all, just for a couple of seconds, I would not realize it was a dream. So, I might have a couple of seconds of kind of normal dreamlike experience. And then I would realize, oh, it's a dream. And just forget it. Because I don't even want to, it's not interesting to me anymore. It's not, there's no fascination to it. I just want to get a good night's sleep. Or also, it was only when I was really advanced in lucid dreaming that I could be in this state. I think relatively few people experience this, where I am asleep, I am aware that I'm asleep and dreaming, and I can simultaneously perceive the false reality of dreaming and the real reality of the world outside me. So, for example, if there were strange noises in my apartment, I can remain asleep, but I can use my senses. I can hear and perceive the real world and think, oh, is that a problem? And then return to sleep. Where I can also, sense, my body lying in the bed without waking up. That's very, very strange. When you first have that experience of simultaneously perceiving the real world and the world of your dreams, it's quite disturbing when you first do it, but you get used to it. And I think most people don't perceive those types of states, or not often. But look, for me, obviously, I've just been describing what was interesting or fascinating to me about lucid dreaming when I was first discovering it. It does, for someone like me, that does not stay interesting for long. I'm not interested in dreams. I'm not interested in fantasy. I'm interested in reality. The whole emphasis of my channel, whether I'm talking about politics or history or anything else, is kind of real. And so, dreaming itself really disappeared from my life. And, again, it's many, many years ago. The last time I can remember having a kind of normal dream was when I was living in Cambodia. And I don't even know, was that 6 years ago, 7 years ago? I've had a long, long period. And again, even then, when I was living in Cambodia, I didn't regularly have normal dreams. It was once in a long while. And I can remember at maybe just 2 points during my marriage, which ended in divorce, in case you don't know, in case you hadn't heard. I can remember maybe just 2 points discussing with my wife a dream I had. And I think she didn't get it, because for me to have a normal dream, in the sense of a dream that I'm not in control of, where I'm not lucid dreaming, or I'm not, that's very rare and very unusual for me. And I don't put any kind of spiritual, importance on it. But it does normally very, very clearly reflect something I've been worried about, like something I've been thinking about. So just in that sense, it's like, well, gee, I had this dream, if it was a normal dream, a non-lucid dream, and this dream shows me that I'm really a lot more concerned about this topic than I thought I was. It's just on that level that I would want to talk about something like. Obviously, I feel more strongly about this subject. But I gotta say, since I left Cambodia, I don't know if I've had a single normal dream in that sense. So, just lately, I didn't want to put too fine a point on it, but just lately I've started a new relationship, with a new girlfriend, and I'm very optimistic about it. I'm very optimistic about her. I'm really hopeful about that relationship, short-term and long-term, and I'm hopeful about it in the best way, which is, even if we don't work as a couple, that we're going to work as friends, which to me means a lot. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I've had a lot of videos lately, like the Rich Piana video, reflecting on how difficult it is to make friends once you're a fully grown adult. If that relationship ends not in love but in friendship, I'd be happy about that too. For me, that's a big win anyway. But, I'm very optimistic about that. And, I was hesitant because I didn't want her to ascribe too much meaning to it. But just now, these last few days, these last few weeks, I'd have to figure out exactly when it started. I've been having normal dreams again. The first time in so many years. And, that also, okay, why is that? I do think that, right now, my whole life, not just my relationship with this woman, I think there is really a kind of optimism and hope in my life that I haven't had for many, many, many years. That's probably one element of it. But the other element, keeping it all the way real, is just that the start of this relationship has really disturbed my sleep. I've been sleeping very, very unusually in the lead up to this relationship, partly just due to, anticipation and, positive emotional connections, and partly due to, worrying about airplane tickets and hotel reservations and a lot of details like that. And we've had a little bit of drama where I had to get to know her parents, which is fine. It's a little bit strange, but I talked to her parents on Skype, and there was a lot of indirect communication between me and her parents. reassuring them, letting them know what the situation is. So there are a lot of things that could just disturb your sleep. And it's totally possible that, once the relationship gets underway or whatever, relationship may not last. I don't have any, as I say, it could end in friendship, can go in one direction or another. It's fine. I'm happy with it no matter what direction it goes in or how it ends up. But yeah, for me, that's a striking contrast, and it's why I made this video talking about the history of sleep in my life, was that for me it was very unexpected to now suddenly, for the first time in so many years, be having normal dreams. And I said this in the conversation with Tofu Goddess, but I don't think you see it in the edited podcast. Maybe just because it was too boring. But one of the things I said to her, kind of the beginning, the middle, and the end of the conversation is, right now, this is a really positive time in my life. In my whole adult life, without even getting into the new girlfriend, I don't know if there's ever been another period of even 1 month that I could say was happy. Most of my adult life has been misery. And it's been meaningful misery. A lot of it, not all of it. I've been miserable for good reasons. But, sure, moving to Da Hong, starting this new chapter of my life, sure, compared to the situation I was in Victoria, BC, in Taiwan, in Kunming, in Cambodia, in Laos, in Saskatchewan, sure, right now, whether or not it's linked to my return to childlike dreaming. That's what it is for me. It's a type of dreaming that's been strange to me since childhood, just having a normal dream like anyone else has. Maybe that signals the rekindling of some optimism in my life.